Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Hughes, and this is my presentation talking about how climate change affects us as humans on this planet in our day-to-day lives, as well as the national and global economies. The first thing that I want to talk about is how climate change affects people directly. This is just day-to-day lives as we're going about our work and our business and our social lives. How does it affect us directly? One of the main things that is affected by climate change that affects people directly is in crop growth. This doesn't just affect the people that work the lands and work the farms. This affects all of us, anyone that eats any food that is grown. Extreme heat causes withering in the plants and doesn't allow them enough moisture to grow. Less precipitation, same thing, not enough moisture for the roots and the plants to grow. Another issue is that there is flooding with the extreme weather conditions that comes with climate change. Flooding is the opposite problem of the lack of precipitation, and it ends up drowning the plants, drowning the crops. And longer seasons, some of that can be good as long as the temperatures are maintaining a normal rate, but with all of the extreme heat and the lack of rain, the longer seasons actually hurt the crops. Another thing that affects us in our day-to-day lives is the extreme weather that comes with climate change. Extreme weather that can be seen because of the change in temperature could be flooding, hurricanes, stronger hurricanes, drought, bigger winter storms, as well as wildfires due to drought and lack of precipitation. Another thing that affects us for our day-to-day lives from climate change would be the health risks that are posed by the rise in temperature of the Earth, as well as the rising concentration of ozone in our air. Heat stroke is a very big problem, not only for older people, but also for anyone really who is exposed to the extreme heat for a long amount of time. Exposure to pollutants in the air that can cause so many different problems, asthma, pneumonia. It can cause cancers. There's a lot of different ways that pollutants can pose a risk to our health. The other health risks are extreme weather causing dangerous situations, things like the extreme heat or the extreme cold. Not everyone can keep themselves protected from those extreme weather situations. The hurricanes and the flooding, things like that, are extremely dangerous, obviously, to our health. Oops. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the effect on national economies around the world that are affected by climate change. The first country that I looked at was the US. There are several different things that can affect our country due to the rising temperatures and the change in the climate. First of all would be food shortages, not only with the crops being affected by the extreme weather and the change in temperature, but also things like livestock being affected, not having enough feed for the livestock to provide a steady supply of food around the country. Another thing that could be affected would be money spent on first responders, people that are going out to fight these extreme weathers and help the citizens that have been affected by it. Firefighters going to put out the wildfires, people being sent to help rescue people from floods and tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that. People that are sent in to help rebuild when something takes out a city, or structures that are damaged by the extreme weather. Infrastructure damage obviously could be a very big problem with climate change, that comes with all of those things, with the money spent on trying to keep up with all the problems with climate change, between food shortages, first responders, damage to buildings and cities. Not only that, but healthcare, with all of the risks to our health that are going up. Insurance companies would definitely feel the strain of more people taking out claims. The second country that I looked at was India. They definitely had a harder time adapting, as far as I could see from the information that I found. They would have a harder time adapting to the problems caused to their economy from the climate change. Agriculture, again, would be affected, growing of crops and livestock. Not only that, but tourism would be a big thing that would be affected with climate change, due to the extreme weather, the extreme heat. Health issues are definitely a big risk in India, because of the higher risk of mortality and disease. And then a big issue would be the heat stress, the risks in the country for the high amounts of heat, and the amount of people that just don't have the means to keep themselves cool in the extreme heat. Indonesia was the last country that I looked at. And what I found was that they also would have issues with the crop losses and the agriculture issues, the tourism issues. Definitely a big risk for heat stress, again, with the amount of people that just don't have the means to have air conditioning or keep themselves cool. Another big issue with Indonesia, though, would be the rising sea level. Because they are surrounded by water, the rising sea level could potentially be extremely detrimental to this country, not only with destroying homes and businesses and cities, but also with the amount of money that would be required to fix those damages with the rising sea levels. They would have to move entire settlements from the coast with the sea level rising. The last thing I would like to talk about is the global economy. How will climate change affect the economy globally, not just from country to country, but how would it affect everyone? There would be some big issues with the global economy if the climate continues to change in the way it has been. Inflation would be a big problem because of the lack of supply to meet demand. There would also be a drop in crop production and a rise in diseases. There is so many pollutants that are in the atmosphere and the ozone with the greenhouse gases that are being released, and the fact that with those gases, the climate or the temperature is rising quicker than it would without those gases. So the amount of diseases that are out there that can be caused by the increased ozone layer and by the rising temperature goes up. And finally, the rising sea levels would cause problems all over the globe, not only with with imports and exports, having to possibly change routes because of rising sea levels, but also the damages that would be caused to coastal cities and towns and the people living in them.